Hello everyone, this is awesome and thank you for inviting us here, and this is really privileged to to share you some stories around like the future of retail and sensors and beacons. So before we will tell you about interfaces, I would like to spend a while trying to explain how we envision the interaction between a human being and a physical world. So it's very, very simple. So typically, there is a source of electromagnetic radiation, which you can call sun or like a lamp. And the light travels to an object and is being reflected, travels to your eyes, and then there is like lots of antennas in your eyes. They are sensitive for specific electromagnetic wave length. And then finally, it goes to your brain, where you have installed tons of apps that can respond to that input and that information. So basically, the human brain was like a main processor power to empower different interactions. So because of the context and the color and a shape and emotion, you know which app to trigger. So that might be an app to run with a dog. It might be an app to just raise your hand, take a glass of water. Tons of different applications in your brain. And as people, we've been fine with that for like last 40,000 years. And suddenly, we kind of always wanted to extend the capabilities of our brain. So basically, we started to invent tons of different devices to extend our storage and extend the way we calculate complex formulas and other limitations of our brain. So eventually, we ended up with like a tiny, tiny devices that are powerful computers inside our pocket. So eventually, we have our second brain inside our pocket, and also, most recently, wearables on our wrist as well. Why it is important? If you pay attention to, for example, an Uber driver, or it might be also iTaxi driver, you will very quickly understand this is not actually a driver driving the car. It's an app. It's an app connected to the entire grid, telling exactly that human being where to go, what to do next, who should to pick up, what should be the transaction, and there's actually even no transaction at all. So basically, there are some applications that our second brain in our pocket becomes a first brain. And that will be extremely important for that first or second brain to have a full understanding about objects and locations. So because my talk is about user experience and interfaces without interface, I have prepared some examples that will show you how the future of interactions might look like when this second brain is telling you exactly what to do. So first up is called Detour. It's an app done by Andrew Mason. He's a former CEO and founder of Groupon. And what they did, thanks to the assumption of having a second brain in your pocket, they basically built an app that will tell you amazing hyperlocal stories when you are just as a tourist visiting, for example, San Francisco. So they launched in San Francisco, and the way it works is very, very simple. You download an app, and it's an audio guided tour that will tell you where to pay attention, which details, and eventually also where to go. So it will navigate you to some hidden places, such as fisherman's back office or like boat, and will tell you native hyperlocal stories about particular vibrant locations. So there is no interface at all, and if you visit their website, you will see a sample of different amazing locations they have prepared. What is extremely interesting today, before our presentation, it was said many times that it's extremely important to optimize for each and every second. It's extremely important to optimize for each and every distance on the website, like a scroll. So building this new interfaces is also about optimizing for hyper-precise location. I will tell you more in a second. Another example of UI-less interface and interaction, which is my favorite, it's a product called No Key, and this is awesome. This is basically just a lock, and you can lock your bike. Very simple, very beautifully crafted product. And what would be the best interface to open or lock the bike? It's very, very elegant. Because of your second brain in your pocket, the lock, because of technologies such as Bluetooth and beacons and so on, detects your proximity. So basically, when you approach your bike, you just open the lock. There's no key, no code, no nothing. It's because the device and the thing does detect your presence. It's beautiful. There's no interface at all. If you are not an owner and you don't have the necessary app installed in your second brain, the lock won't open. And also, it will just trigger an alarm, like a noisy alarm that will eventually protect your bike and also send you a text message that someone is manipulating with your bike if you're in the proximity. So this is my favorite example of designing an experience with a modern technologies that does not require any interface. Why to incorporate any code and a pin? Why to incorporate key? There's no need for that because we are already equipped with our powerful computer, our second brain. It's a powerful device that can connect to the server, other part of the world. But of course, today, has like still no understanding about our location and our context, and that is very slowly changing because of this kind of products and other products I will show you in a second. Another example of a UI-less experience is an application released in Belgium in Rubens Museum, and they made it even more beautiful. So many startups and entrepreneurs and also innovation team members, they struggle with an app development. But once an app is built, they struggle with an app distribution. Right? Nobody wants my app. Nobody downloads my app. So they solve it in a very elegant way. So each visitor visiting the museum is being provided with an iPad. And of course, the entire location, the building, is equipped with sensors and technologies so that the iPad basically presents the data and the content where it's needed without interface, right? So basically, it's for an ordinary consumer, it's just like a piece of glass. It's a tool. It's a magical tool. You just walk into different rooms and you see different content being changed automatically because of your presence or behavior. Very elegant and a very smart solution. Then, of course, there are different options. So there are little games, so you can play with like an art and engage with locations. So basically, these examples I told you about, the UI-less examples, they require the second brain to have a full understanding of the context. And that might be eventually delivered by integrated objects such as the lock that use Bluetooth, and also might be delivered by beacons. So I will just spend a minute on beacons, so you have like more understanding how exactly it works, and then what's the kind of impact when for your design process and your design concepts. So there are many different types of beacons. There are different beacon vendors, and you know, the world is the world of you know, objects is going to be absolutely massive. So we all expect there will be different applications for different beacons, and our design. In our design process and the way we think about it is like, we just believe that it is extremely important to send a push notification to your first brain that the physical location is equipped with the digital layer. So basically that's why they are so colorful and they are visible, because we just want to inform your first brain about the presence. So you walk into the museum or like to a retail store and you immediately know that there is some additional layer of information. So some other vendors, eventually they make it white and hide it. We just believe this is so wrong. We believe that it has to be visible. It cannot track people. It cannot spy people. It has to be visible, and it has to enrich the first brain experience. So these are like the beacons that are designed to deliver hyper-precise location, almost 1 meter accuracy of your location. And these are called stickers, and they are designed to deliver you the context. So they have an information, what is the object, there's motion sensor built in, there's temperature sensor, and other sensors that, again, have to inform your second brain about the exact context. So it works in a very simple way. So technically speaking, they are equipped with a Bluetooth radio, and they just blink all the time. And again, in the example I told you in the beginning, the physical world around us is we can see because of the external source of electromagnetic radiation. And beacons are the source itself. So basically, if you attach such a beacon to your dog, to your kid, to your bike, whatever, it will just blinking. It will just broadcast some little radio packets that eventually mobile phone or any smart device, such as glass, a watch, or any device can just pick up and can understand what is the context and trigger an app, depending on, you know, how it was configured and programmed. Of course, there's like a cloud component. If you would like to secure it and manage at scale, it just doesn't matter for user experience designers. The most important part is that the phone and the device can respond to the location and the presence. What are the possible interactions? So in iOS 8, there was introduced by Apple something called Hero app. Basically, on your lock screen, there is a tiny icon that will magically appear only in the proximity of particular location. That might be driven by GPS, that might be also driven by beacons. So if you approach your fridge and the fridge is enabled by beacons, you will just like simply see on your lock screen the fridge app associated with the beacon. And if you think deeply about it, it's awesome. It's the very first manifestation of something we call a contextual computing. So now the phone does respond to your actions and your presence. These like few pixels is the very first step, because what if the entire screen will respond to it? So you walk into IKEA, there's IKEA content. You walk into iTaxi, there's iTaxi content. You walk into a conference, there's conference content, and so on. You know what I mean. So that is like very first instructions you can already design, building your own experiences and apps. Of course, another thing are push notifications, and this will enable you and enable your things to talk to you. So now your fridge and your dog and your bike and your car can just like send you and push you a message. So because of your proximity. And it works in the background. So basically it means that once you have an app installed, you don't have to do anything else. You just walk in to your whatever, let's say you walk into your car, and then the app will trigger automatically whatever action you want. It might send you a message. It might also just ping the analytics server. It might trigger light eventually if it's connected, and so on. So basically, again, your second brain in your pocket can be influenced by the proximity and motion of physical objects and locations. And of course, the final possible interactions is that when you have an app open, it can always interact with all these sensors and beacons. And there's tons of other sensors that I told you. So there's motion sensors. So for example, if you approach your dog and your dog is sleeping, nothing happens. But when the dog will approach you and is like in motion for a while and its temperature is this and that, something might eventually happen, right? Push notification or some other data collection event as you develop that. So again, eventually your second brain finally has a full understanding of all the objects and locations around you. Its distance, type, ownership, temperature, motion, and many other gestures that you eventually might develop. Why this is important? So if you think about present interaction in the retail space, and we also have seen banking experience, it's very similar. So you typically, as a designers, design applications, e-commerce websites, and you might not be aware of the fact that 95% of all the transactions, they still happen in a physical brick and mortar retail spaces. So the entire Amazon, eBay, Facebook, Google, and all the e-commerce websites you know, just 5%, only 5%. So the physical world around us is just enormous. So that is why it's extremely important to ignite a discussion how to design experiences for the physical world with this new technology. So I give an example about some Scandinavian furniture store. I cannot tell you the name, but you've all been there, right? So if you think deeply about the experience, it's very simple. You arrive at the store today. They give you wooden pencil. You just need to, explore in the showroom. Once you like the object, you just write it down, this long Scandinavian name. And then eventually, you might be lost in the showroom, and once you find a way to your warehouse, you will pick it up, put it in your cart, and push it towards the checkout area. So this is fascinating that the entire trip to that Scandinavian store is a trip. You just need to book an hour or something to go outside the city, right? It's fascinating that it's an awesome experience of great Scandinavian design and amazing pricing, but with so many friction points within the experience. How that might work with sensors and beacons and smart apps installed in our second brain. Very, very simple. So I arrive inside IKEA, I like the object, and I'm ready to buy, so I just take my phone, unlock it, and here it is. It's just automatically on my screen because it just detected my presence and my interaction. So eventually, I will just add it to the cart. There is no QR code scanning, there is no NFC bumping, it just works automatically because it detected the presence, because the range can be adjusted. So once I added the object, I keep browsing. I like that shirt, I will add it as well. I like the lamp, I will add it as well. And finally, I get to the exit area, and there's a beacon, and it says, hey Jacob, you have 800 zloty on your list, you pay by credit card, shipping to your house tomorrow, accept, and now I go to buy a hot dog, right? So that might be the experience. And if this is possible to enrich something what is called inventory-less showroom, what if this Scandinavian store could be just on the corner, right? Why there is a need to build like an amazing and huge store if we can just like build a Stockholm showroom and Copenhagen showroom, and you can just like from time to time walk in there and just like keep buying stuff, right? And this is like the people from Citibank told you about the human interactions, and sure, this is not about self-service interactions. We still need human beings, right? And you can call a clerk and you will see how the customer service person is approaching. Eventually, the management and also the team members inside the store will see what is the distribution of the customer service employees inside the store and how to optimize the interactions. Again, you will be able to measure what wasn't possible to measure before. And when we've been designing beacons and sensors and stickers, we've been excited about that kind of gesture. Like taking a phone, unlocking was so simple. But now, we're just excited by something else. Because like we can reduce the time, or we can reduce the friction. Just now imagine, why I have to pick up my second brain from my pocket? Why? I don't need that. I just approach the object, and I just walk around once. It knows I've been there. Now I return. It's really awesome. I will just buy it. It's done, right? So now you can see that basically it's not necessarily about your watch. It's about whatever the future communication device is there. It doesn't matter because these radio waves are in the air, right? So it can be detected by a watch, a glass, or maybe like a flying quadricopter from Google, right? We just don't know. But what is extremely important that it does require a completely new approach to design of the experience. It's not an app anymore, and it's not a website anymore. It's not e-commerce. It's just the experience that you can craft very, very precise. And it's not only about the proximity, because if I touch the object, it will sense it as well. I was here, I touch it, so now all the displays will show this lack table and like a Minority Report style. It's possible. If we should do that, well, with great technology and comes also great responsibility. So this is up to us and you guys, designers, what kind of the experience will be. There will be, in a few days, Chris, remind me when they're going to ship it? 24. Yeah, so basically there will be, you'll see lots of implementations. It's because it's the entire story, right? It's not just the watch, it's the entire ecosystem of payment and other elements that make this solution finally possible and really, really elegant. And it doesn't have to be commerce application. It can be anything. So if you want to track how long you spend, with your dog, your kid, inside your office, or with your whatever favorite object, it is also possible you can build your own experiences. And again, the main idea behind is that you are equipped already with a second brain, and that second brain finally has full understanding of objects around you. And of course, the beacons will be only smaller, and they will be inexpensive, and they will just last forever. That's so obvious, right? And that's why when you start designing these experiences today, you will be just ahead of your competitors because you will already have it when the time is right. So again, just to summarize, this was your canvas before, right? It was a mouse. You move the mouse, the cursor moved on the screen. You eventually selected a region, you call it a button, and when I move the mouse to that region, something happened, right? This was your canvas before, right? Now, this is your canvas. So it's basically the physical world you used to live in, right? There are objects. You can locate people very precisely. You can locate objects very precisely. You can detect the interactions. and now start designing your experiences. So I hope you enjoyed this very short presentation, and I have reserved a lot of time for questions. I will be here for a while today, so feel free to ask now or later on. Thank you.
Thank you very much.